Hey guys, Forristicat here. I thought, since The Walking Dead episode 8 aired yesterday, I may as well sort of give my thoughts on sort of season 3.5 of The Walking Dead as a whole. So going into this season, I was actually pretty excited because I knew that the story arc of the prison is a very interesting story arc. So I was really curious because Robert Kirkman explicitly stated that he was going to sort of keep things fresh for people who have read the comics and sort of make a couple of changes here and there which keeps people who have read the comics on their toes. But nevertheless, even though I knew he was going to make these changes, I found the whole story arc of the prison probably like the best sort of moments of the comic, and I was reading them 1 to 100, like one after the other, and it was a sort of story arc that sort of stood out the most. So overall, what do I think of this season 3.5 of The Walking Dead? I have to say that it is pretty damn good. I mean, that's not to say it's not without its problems. There's a couple of plot contrivances which I'll get into later, but overall I think it did a very good sort of like dovetail into the darkness of the comic, which is really something that you get a lot when you read the comics. The sort of the depression, the madness of Rick, and above all else, and as the tagline suggested, the real threat is not really the zombies. The real threat is human beings. And there's one sort of really good moment in the comics where Rick is sort of going crazy and he's like, you think, those things there, the Walking Dead? We are the Walking Dead, which means to say, everyone's already sort of like dead already, and when they die, they're going to come back, as a walker. But even so, it's sort of demonstrated they're just as worse as, or becoming as worse as the zombies in the environment that they're in. They're just taking away the humanity. And I think that's sort of the whole theme of the comic is given extreme circumstances, how much humanity or how much of your own ethics are going to remain intact, given that a leadership situation you're going to have to give and take and make some pretty damn hard choices. So I think that was sort of the main theme of the comic, and going into more dark territory. In season 3 of the 3.5 of The Walking Dead, I think we're going to get a chance to really explore that. So overall, the governor character, David Morrissey, I think that the choice to make him a sort of fleshed out character, it was a very smart one. In the comic, he's like a very typical villain, he looks like a villain. He gets given the eye patch later on, of course. But here we sort of see him slowly peeling back layers of his psychology as to what makes him tick. So I think that him being a major character, major villain, it's important to get this characterization out of the way. So his whole obsession with his daughter Penny, that he keeps her as a zombie, his whole fascination with zombies and all these weird experiments he's doing, it just goes to show you how crazy he is, and the fact that he thinks he's not crazy even makes him more crazy. So that was good. The Michonne character, Michonne, is done, which she's an excellent character in the comics. She kicks all sorts of ass. Needless to say, I was looking forward to seeing her. How can I say? In the comic, when you see her wielding that katana or a sword or whatever, it's okay, I can suspend disbelief, but I must admit, seeing it unfold on screen, it's a little bit jarring to see her swing and take these zombies out very quickly and efficiently with that katana. But I'm willing to let that slide. I guess it's one of those things some things should be left as comics, some things should be left as a TV show. But nevertheless, given her character has that as her iconic weapon, of course you're gonna have stuff like that. What else? The whole idea of trying to rebuild civilization in this town called Woodbury, given the zombie situation, gets explored. And how do people like reform governments? How do tyrants come about given these extreme circumstances in the form of the governor? How do you sort of like manage a society after society has just been stripped away from you? That starts to get explored. And the whole obvious idea of like these guys like are going into prison, which is normally like a place where bad people go, which ironically becomes the safest place for these survivors in the first half of season 3. I think that the idea of Rick sort of becoming so desensitized to killing, like he's just killing people as if it's nothing, that is a sort of very prominent motif in the comics. Like you just see him kill and kill and kill until his face is covered with blood, and he's just so down out. He just doesn't give a shit anymore, to the point where killing just becomes nothing for him. That sort of was demonstrated very well on the TV show just after Laurie dies, in that he's just sort of like walking around the prison in a daze, and he's got blood on him and he doesn't even know what's going on. He attacks Daryl, which is a little, sorry, not Daryl, sorry, the Asian, I forgot what his name is. Sorry, the Asian character, sorry, his name escapes me. Found it a little bit hard to believe, given all that they've been through, but nevertheless, like, sort of demonstrates his psychosis, and him talking to his wife on the phone, which is another sort of main sort of subplot of the comics, where he just really wants to talk to his wife after she died. So what he does is, he hallucinates her talking on the phone, and she says, you have to look after everyone. In the comics, she dies with, what happens is, the comic is very, very dark. The comic, I don't think, there's no way AMC would show what happens to this governor character in the comic on screen, because what happens is Michonne basically gets, she gets like brutally raped by the governor. Then she goes back to find him, and she tortures the absolute crap out of him. I'm talking about like ripping off fingernails, cutting off body parts, hammering his dick onto the floorboard, like crucifying him, just absolutely tearing him apart like a piece of meat about to go to the butcher's. And I haven't read that many comics, but that was like, it just bombarded it, like just these. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, but it made me like even more like sort of effed up, and then I'm like, oh wow, like I've never actually seen anything like this in a comic before. And The Walking Dead issue 100, I believe, the ending of that is even more insane. Something major happens to one of the major characters, and it's also pretty brutal what you can sort of get away with on paper, I guess, as opposed to on screen. But having said that, there's a lot of sort of like gory zombie deaths on screen this season, which sort of I enjoy, because that's part of the fun, I guess, of reading the comic. Whether it's good for that to be fun or not, I don't know, but that's the whole zombie, like mythology. You're gonna have these Walking Dead walking around. People are gonna kill them like animals because they're not humans anymore. So what else? The whole Herschel's character sticking around was fantastic. The actor who plays him is great. The whole sort of Carl becoming a man before his time is also a very major theme of the comics, and I think that's being explored very well. A couple of things in the last episode that I didn't really like is that the whole like Andrea trusting the governor, even though she spent so much time with Michonne, I found that very hard to believe. I think that she should have trusted Michonne much more than she trusted this governor guy. What else? I think that given that the governor sort of like I mentioned, like rapes Michonne in the comics, I think they pushed it as hard as they could, or as much as they could, in this situation. Like he's sort of standing behind Maggie in this case, and you think, oh my god, is he going to do something? Then he goes to a commercial break. But I still want to see him do something pretty messed up. I mean, to me, even though like this is going to cause like massive fan outcries, he has to kill Daryl, which is like an obvious fan favorite. Like, who doesn't like Daryl right from the get-go? Everyone likes him. He's an alpha male who just does whatever the hell he wants. He's a leader when Rick is down. He has funny, one-liners. He's caring. He's nurturing. He can be like a father figure when he needs to. He's like the ultimate like anti-hero, or just this cool badass character, if you will. And now we've got a season 3 cliffhanger of him being captured by the governor and being put to the governor's lies about these guys breaking in, and Merle being the traitor. Although, come to think of it, he assumed Merle was a traitor because he lied to the governor about killing Michonne, which he obviously saw. So it's one of those things that I'm thinking, like, what would have the most emotional impact now? And that's the thing with emotional impact in TV shows. Every time you up the ante, when you up the ante to that same level, it's not going to have an emotional impact because we've already met that before. That was a major problem with 24. 24 blew their terrorist sort of threat low too early with season 2 with the nuclear bomb. You can't get anything sort of more catastrophic than that. So as soon as they sort of put that into a threat in season 2, that they were going through all different levels, but they already reached that level. So what's my point here? Like, the only sort of thing which would really affect people's emotions and characters and get them more sort of into the show and upset and emotionally engaged is if the governor kills this Daryl guy, and from there that's when the war starts. That's when like they escape, and then the governor comes after them or whatever. Or maybe the reverse is true. Like Rick kills, but I mean who can he kill at the? Okay, maybe they okay, this is probably what's gonna happen. They're gonna escape with Maggie and Glenn. That's the agent's guy's name. I remember Glenn. The governor's obviously angry that Michonne killed Penny, so he's going to go back to the prison, and there's going to be an all-out war there. And that's sort of another major part of the sort of arc, was that after Michonne does all this stuff to the governor, gives him the eye patch from torturing the crap out of him after he rapes her, he goes back to the prison and he's there with the tank, and he's like, kill them all. And in the comics, that is how Laurie dies. She's actually pregnant with a baby, and this is this massive shootout, and then she just ends up dead as a result of that. So there's enough changes here to keep comic book readers on their toes. And even though there's a couple of plot contrivances here, one I saw on Reddit.com is like, or somewhere like they know that covering themselves with zombie guts is going to prevent them from being seen by zombies, but they never use that again, sort of thing. And like I said, the whole Andrea falling for the governor, when there's supposedly meant to be such a strong friendship developing between Michonne and Andrea, that she just falls head over heels for the governor character. I don't buy that at all. That's another force on the plot which is unnatural, which is very obvious to me. But having said that, this season of The Walking Dead is pretty good. It's definitely faster. It has done a good job at capturing the sort of darkness of the comic, not taking it the full way, because I think I saw an interview with Robert Kirkman on The Talking Dead today that he's really surprised by like how far like AMC are letting him show what he's showing, and he's gonna push it as fast as hard as he can until the censors say, what, you can't show that, which I think is a good thing. I mean, the comics are pretty dark, and the more you can show that on television while still being within ratings limits, the better, because there's some stuff that you just have to show to get the sort of point of the comic. Like, this is not like a peaches and cream, kittens and milk, rainbows and puppy dogs, fairy tale. This is, about zombies and how it detracts people from their humanity to the point where, you were going to ask yourself, who are the real threat here? Is it the zombies, or is it the people which are alive? And ironically, it's the people that are alive which are the biggest threat. So I think I've said all I've needed to say. I've given some comic spoilers in there. I'm really keen to see how they wrap this season of The Walking Dead up. I must admit, the comic sort of, after the prison arc, it starts to spin its wheels a little bit, but I think Robert Kirkman is in a good position to take the selective good parts between issues 1 and 100 out, discard the rest, which he knows is less than perfect, and make, you know, like a compelling TV show of, you know, how would you actually survive in a zombie apocalypse, dealing with your morals and your ethics, and is it right to kill, is it wrong to kill, who should have power, who shouldn't have power, and I guess above all else, you know, how hard do you try, given the circumstances, to keep what's most important, which is your humanity. Alright guys, 60 minutes is just about up. Let me know your thoughts on The Walking Dead below. Yeah, I guess I'm going to try to watch Homeland next, season 2, and I really want to talk about that. It's a fantastic TV show from the creators of 24, I believe. That's all I have to say. I'll give season 3 of The Walking Dead, yeah, solid, you know, 7.5 out of 10. Alright guys, Forristicat here. Check out the comics are great as well. Peace.